Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for the Miami Beach Marina Community Meeting. My name is Gabriela Gonzalez. I am the Neighborhood Affairs Coordinator, and I want to welcome some of the elected officials that have joined us on tonight's call. We have from Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez's office, Jacqueline Budin. I see Blake Govin with Mayor Minor's office, and our Mayor, Stephen Minor, as well. I think I'm not missing anyone there, so I will introduce really quickly before we jump into the presentation some of the staff members that have joined us on the city side. We have Elizabeth Miro, which is our interim director for Facilities and Fleet Management Department. She's going to introduce her staff in just a second, and I'm going to provide a quick rundown of tonight's meeting. We're going to hear a presentation from our Facilities Department, and then once we are done, we'll turn it over at the end for any questions and comments that you all as the public have. So please feel free to hold on to those questions until the end of the presentation, and we will do our best to address all of your questions and concerns. So with that, I will turn it over to Elizabeth to walk us through the presentation and continue with her introductions. Elizabeth?
Good evening, everyone. Elizabeth Miro, Interim Director for Facilities and Fleet Management. And I have with me today Ozzy Dominguez, our Asset Management Director. And also joining us today is Keith Marks, South of Fifth Neighborhood President. We have been discussing the Marina terms for some time, and I want to share with you some of those terms that we're proposing. Hope everyone can see my screen. So the intent behind today's public meeting is really to discuss and highlight some of the terms that we have been discussing for some time. And just to provide some background, the South of Fifth neighborhood did contact Suntex sometime in November and some time ago, and they had discussed some quality of life issues. And then shortly thereafter, on April 3rd, 2024, the mayor and the city commission did approve a resolution sponsored by Commissioner David Suarez, which basically directed the administration to negotiate the appropriate terms and conditions for a possible extension of the term for the Marina lease. This included both a short-term as well as a long-term extension. We have discussed this in a couple times, both at FERC as well as neighborhoods. And we're looking at, I'm sorry, my thing is like stuck here. Here we go. Is it moving? There we go. Now it's moving. Sorry. And we have discussed some of the draft terms. We have presented them both at the July 10th Public Safety and Neighborhood Quality of Life meeting, and also at the July 26th Finance and Economic Resiliency meeting. Our next meeting on October 18th, 2024, the Finance and Economic Resiliency Committee will be providing the final terms that we have negotiated thus far. Okay. And here I'm going to talk about some of the proposed terms. First, we're looking at capital expenditures for the Marina improvements over the remaining 28 years. This will include under, the additional 10 years of the lease. And at current, we're looking at $60 million in aggregate. And we want to make sure that these capital expenditures really address a lot of the Marina items set apart from regular maintenance. And this is to maintain the Marina in like a world-class facility. Another term that we have looked at is having the Marina garages located under the Murano at Portofino and the Yacht Club to be fully metal gated, similar to those used by the condos. Parking at these garages is limited to parking for the Marina slip holders, employees of Suntex, and the Marina shops only, no general parking. The Miami Beach residents will be placed on a priority list for annual slip rentals. This is one of the terms that Suntex has definitely agreed to give the Miami Beach residents priority. Another is access to the security cameras for code and Miami Beach police after the fact for the purposes of reviewing activity. And if there's a possibility to tap into the system to provide real-time access as well. Suntex will require CCTV security path to be implemented. All the terms that we have negotiated so far also include all the terms and provisions including in the letter of intent between Suntex and the South of Fifth Neighborhood Association. We're also looking at setting a cap of no more than 10 charter operators and capping the occupancy load of these charters. All BTR holders or its customers must conform to the hours of operations in accordance to the City of Miami Beach ordinance. We're also looking at defining very clearly what is an eco charter and what is a charter, a commercial leisure vessel, if you will. And this will be defined and adjudicated by the City of Miami Beach. Any slip or BTR granted will be reviewed by the city for compliance to ensure commercial boats are not misusing the classification of eco tours or fishing or dive vessels. Okay, and this is to avoid them trying to circumvent or find any loopholes into the 10 slip limitation on commercial slips. Suntex is to provide the names and locations of all the charters. An exhibit should be provided once per month. We're going to include a provision in the rules and regulations for the charter operators and landing agreements wherein they will receive one warning, and if there's a recurrence, they will be automatically terminated. Additionally, if a charter operator receives 2 code compliance adjudicated violations, this will result in automatic termination. Additionally, the fuel dock should be operating from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. There will be no self-service for fuel. No outside charters may operate as water transfer service to or from the marina other than those transporting guests to visit the marina and its restaurants amenities. The curfew needs to be enforced at 9 p.m. We're looking at converting the side parking spaces to the north of the Marina Portofino and the yacht club to 15-minute parking spaces to allow slip owners to unload. Suntex is to provide 15 parking spaces to the Rebecca Towers employees and caregivers at no cost within the yacht club parking garage through the term of the Suntex agreement. And these are the basic highlights in terms of the terms. We're still negotiating, trying to finalize this. And we're looking to, as I mentioned before, presenting this before the next October 18th Finance and Economic Resiliency Committee. I would like to introduce Keith Marks at this moment.
Hello. Just for community background, all the items that were listed, other than those of financial, were part of the LOI between Suntex and SOFNA. We started this around July of last year because we were banging our heads against the wall. We kept talking to the city, and the city correctly told us that the current lease, which is going to run for another 29 years, is written, anyone who has seen it would fairly say that it's not just in Suntex's favor, it is just abhorrent and allows none of the controls that you see now in this revised discussion. Because they're a business, they're not going to take efforts that limit their revenue without some financial benefit. So what we did is on our own, not with the city initially, was talk to Suntex, explain to them what's going on, what security issues we had, why charters are out of control, why at times we felt that, the marina, at no fault to Suntex, but based on the contract, was turning into Ocean Drive. And we had to get some kind of win-win where SOFNA didn't get everything we wanted and Suntex didn't get everything they wanted, but there was some accommodation. So the accommodation was Suntex was interested in an extension of the lease of short-term nature that would allow them to reopen the lease, put in the terms that we just talked about and some more controls that are part of the LOI of SOFNA. And they will conform basically to proper operations in what we feel is a win-win for the community. And then we turned it over to the city for all the financials. Because there is a CapEx, there is a value to them, even though they're losing charter business, they're gaining those 9+ extra years. And that's where the city and Ozzy, and he could talk about it in more detail if he'd like, pushed for higher lease payments in the out years, and the enhancements, the 16 million above and beyond maintenance that we're going to receive for the 9+ years. So we're very, very excited about this. We presented this last year to SOFNA. David Suarez took it on for us, and it doesn't prohibit a long-term in the future, but whether we build and support a tower, a new development with a developer, is independent now of getting the controls and the safety and the rules that all the presidents of the Marina and SOFNA have asked for. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Elizabeth. Really quickly, I just wanted to recognize some of our elected officials that have joined while we were going through the presentation. So a special welcome again to our Mayor, Stephen Miner, and his Deputy Chief of Staff, Blake. I saw Commissioner Magazine and his aide, Luis Atencio, join. Thank you for being here with us. Commissioner Bott was also on the call. Thank you for being here with us. I saw Commissioner Dominguez's aide, Aaron Soriano, as well as Commissioner Gonzalez and her aide, Jacqueline Budin, who were on earlier. So appreciate and thank you all for being here with us this evening. Elizabeth, I don't know if you wanted to share any other final documents before I opened it up for Q&A, or if we're ready to go in.
Ozzy's actually going to say something.
One second. Good afternoon, everyone. I actually am just going to say something very brief. I want to say thank you to Keith Marks and for the entire group at SOFNA who spent so many days and hours working with Suntex. I want to say thank you to Mike Rico and the Suntex team for being true partners and understanding the need to make some amendments to the existing lease. We're going in the right direction. These are some great terms. I also want to say thank you to our commissioners and mayor for giving us some guidance and support through this process. Thank you. And to all of the residents that are here, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ozzy. So I'll turn it over now for Q&A. I already see some hands going up. So if you do have any questions or comments that you'd like addressed to anyone here on the call, please feel free to use the raise your hand icon that's located on the bottom of your screen. We have a good amount of people on tonight's call, so we do ask that you keep your comments brief. We're going to give everyone about 2 minutes per person to speak, and I'm going to turn it over now to our first caller. If you can please state your name for us. I have here Paula.
Hi, Paula Allen.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I sent questions earlier. They weren't answered. I sent them to Lauren Fortel as the notice, the email notice I got. They weren't answered, so I'll go ahead and ask them here. And one comment which I made and when I called Blake is that when the city does notice these things or send the emails out, they should attach the corresponding documents so that people like myself that actually like to read the entirety of it, not just 5 or 6 screens of bullet points, that want to read all of the exhibit A, exhibit B, etc., so we can actually see. So one of the questions that I have regarding this is that one of the questions was how much parking is going to be, because these parking spaces and garages were referred to when there was a lot of discussions on the First Street redesign and the removal of parking there. It was often said by many city officials and others that, oh, well, you know, we've got these other parking spaces right across the street that are open to the public. So the question was, how many parking spaces are going to be removed from when First Street redesign? How many of these public parking spaces in these garages are going to be no longer available to the parking? One of the bigger question is, was there an agreement what do you call these, an incentive when the buildings, these high rises, Icon, Murano, Portofino, Murano Grande Yacht Club, was there some sort of an incentive that they had to provide public parking way back, you know, to get some increase in height, FAR, et cetera? Because, you know, that goes on with the city all the time. If there was, were those taken into account in all of this contract and removal of public parking? That's one of the points. The next is how much is getting removed. And so I didn't hear mention of the other to the north of Monty's and that north lot in the bottom of what is it? Murano Grande, the one that's like by Icon. Is that one still open to the public? The one that's the largest one?
Hi, Paula. I'm going to try to answer all of your questions. Yes, the Icon and Murano Grande parking will still remain open. The gates are going up on the Murano Portofino and the Yacht Club. And those are going to be to shift the parking of Marina slip owners straight into there. So the open surface lots will still also be available for residents of the city. The one question that I do not have an answer for you on because it's not under my purview, but we can get that for you and I will send it out as soon as possible, is how many parking spaces are being lost on First Street, which I know that was your second question, I believe.
Okay, so can I finish up with my time? So thank you for that. But yeah, so those questions are remaining of whether any public parking or whatever was part of the original deals to get the high rises built, because that should not be negated, you know, if so, by anything by the city, in my opinion, that is. You know, if they agreed to give it, it should be remain such. Also, all these other documents talk about only giving a 5%, you know, increase to the price of a slip for Miami Beach holders. I mean, Miami Beach residents. It also talks about something which again, there was not enough slides to go into the entirety of a lot of these points. It also talks about the going to, I guess, giving Miami Beach residents parking rate as opposed to the $4 and something that it is currently. Can someone speak to that? I mean, because there's, like I said, I appreciate, Elizabeth, your presentation, but it's so brief when there's so many much more to this agreement when you actually open up the Exhibit A's and this Exhibit B's and et cetera. And if I read everything, so that's why I'm asking all these questions.
As far as the rates for parking, I have not seen that as one of the terms. This parking lot and parking garages are under the purview of the lease of Suntex Marina. So I am not aware that that has been a topic of communication or discussion. I will have an answer for you as well and get back to you later this week, hopefully tomorrow. The terms that are approved are that residents of Miami Beach will be on a priority list for slip rentals, and that would be the extent of the benefit on that point.
Yeah, Ozzy,
And we'll get back to you, Paula. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Keith Marks. I'm not aware of any discussions at any point in time with the city or certainly with Suntex that talked about costs of parking, costs of slips, just that we're on a priority list for Miami Beach, and specifically south of Fifth. Over in the past, it was over commercial operators who tended to get that. But those items that you mentioned, Paula, I have never seen discussed.
Thank you both. And Paula, we'll put up our communication, all of our emails at the end, so that if you do have any follow-up questions, we'll be sure to take those back with the team and further discuss. I'm going to go over to our next caller, John Gardenier. If you can please unmute yourself.
I'm
There we go. I'm unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Good afternoon. By the way, Ozzy, when you speak, it's an echo. It sounds like you're God. So I hope that helps in your negotiations. The slide that Elizabeth showed on on the negotiated agreement with or LOI with between SOFNA and the Marina. We need to be clear because it looks like you have limitations on the number of charters, and then you have limitations on the number of slips. So which one is it? Is it 10 slips or 10 charters?
I can answer that for SOFNA.
It is
We
10
went back-
charters.
Yeah, it's yes, it's 10 charters, but it's also, they cannot have more than 10 slips with a charter assigned to it. So it's actually both. They can't have 20 charters out of 10 slips. It's 10 charters, 10 slips.
Yeah, so it's out, there's 10 slips limited to charters because some charters
Yes,
who have BTRs, they have 8 different slips. So it's
correct. And that's
10
why
10
we
times
didn't-
10.
Yeah, we didn't fall into the BTR trap. If you go by BTRs, it's impossible. But we said there's 10 slips, 10 charters, pick your best, the ones you want, however they do it. But we're gonna go down from the unlimited in the current contract to no more than 10.
No more than, again, I'm a little, just to be clear,
10 charters.
10 charters, but each charter can have up to 10 slips. So you can have a total of 100 slips.
No, there's
Okay.
10 slips.
10 slips total, 10 slips charters total. So Elizabeth, you
Yes.
understand that? Is that clear?
And that's correct.
The document says that, yes.
All right, and then the second thing is, and presumably any charters or slips in excess of that 10 will be left to expire and not renewed, correct?
Correct. That is my answer.
Including landing rights, agreements, etc.
Correct. We will no longer, Suntex will, and the city will no longer honor any charters that are foreign charters that are not part of the slips and identification and fall under all the Miami Beach rules. They're not going to be able to start their tour here or drop off their tour here. That's been done in the past because, again, the contract was silent on that, and that is of no benefit. It's a security issue. We've had really bad times where people have been dropped off and have hung around drunk. And it doesn't do Suntex or the city, and it doesn't provide any benefit to have other marinas originating or disembarking at this marina. So that's going to stop.
Okay. And then the third item I wanted to just ask in my leftover time is we raised this. I'm also, as you know, a member of the Marine Waterfront Protection Authority, and we had discussed having some kind of a liaison with the marina or being able to have them present or participate in some of our meetings, not every meeting, but if it relates to the marina, if that's something that can be included in your final negotiations.
I will. Sorry.
Right.
I hope you don't get the feedback again. I'm sorry. John, yes, we actually we have that as part of the plan, that as far as the approval process for the charters and the eco tours or diving tours, that we would discuss internally with the city about having your board as part of the process of review and approval.
All right. Very good. I just want to say that you guys have handled this very well, and I appreciate your work. Hopefully that ends up the way you've presented it. We'll see how the sausage is made. All right. Good luck. And of course you have feedback from the committees in the city of as you're going through this, well, obviously. All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all. Thank you, John, for the questions. I apologize earlier, Wayne, but I'm going to turn it over to you now to state your comments or questions.
Thank you very much. First of all, I did not receive an invitation to this meeting, and I wonder if I was excluded for a reason. 4 people forwarded me the meeting. So my issues are, one, our charter does not allow for an extension to be done with options of any kind that extend the 28 years by 9 years or a day. It's cut black and white. You can't do that. What's more, you're actually reducing the rights of the city with this agreement. The agreement today allows the city to absolutely control the charters, the amount of charters, the usage of the slips in the contract that exists today. And you are actually giving them rights that they never had before. The city could act independently and make that happen. You could say no charters today. The city could do that today. The parking agreement says that the original parking agreement in the 80s said they weren't entitled to use the space except by permit for the use of the marina itself alone only, and that the valet parking at Marina Grande was the only access tool beyond permitted. This agreement doesn't even put in a gate, and it's pay by plate on Marina Grande. So we're going to have the same problems that we had break-ins, we had burglaries, we had people vomiting, we had sex in our garages. We had all kinds of problems that the police were called on, and this does not even discuss security or gating at the Marina Grande. What's more, the parking agreement in 2020 that was arbitrarily done under the prior administration for no reason whatsoever, that you're trying to revert back to, doesn't help Marina Grande back to its original day, but everybody else's seems to be impacted south of 3rd Street, but not our buildings, which is unfair and inequitable, because the people that are driving the bus here have an interest down there, not us, it seems. And as a South of 5th Neighborhood Association, they should be as concerned with us as they are with them. It's illegal. It doesn't do this. None of the terms in this deal make the city stronger. We have the right to control the charters. We have a right to control the parking after the 2-year agreement that extended, that ended annually thereafter, at your will. There's absolutely nothing in this agreement that improves our position. It actually worsens the city's position, and it's illegal. We can't do it without a referendum. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne, for your comments. I'm not sure if anyone on the team would like to address anything. Otherwise, I will move on to the next caller.
I don't even care.
Okay, so let me turn it over to Tom DeSantis. If you could please unmute yourself there.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Tom DeSantis. I've been a resident of the Continuum south of 5th for 20 years. And my question is, has the marina ever considered having floating docks for jet skis? The closest jet ski dock right now you have to go pretty much is to Holliver Beach. And I'm in Ohio right now on Lake Erie, and I belong to a nice boat club. And they have lots of floating docks for jet skis because lots of people with boats also want to have jet skis, or just have jet skis and not boats. So that's the question. Thank you.
Tom, thank you very much for being part of this and asking your question. The marina currently does have a floating dock with jet skis provided by a sub vendor. I believe they have 8 or 10 jet skis available there.
Well, those are jet skis that are rented. I'm talking about where I own jet skis. I would
to
like
park
to
your personal vessel.
Yeah, right, because the quality of the ones that you own can be much higher than what they rent, and plus the rentals have a lot of restriction as to where you can go. And when I used to have a jet ski in South Beach, I had someone deliver it to the launch over by Sunset Harbor, and then you're free to go all over from the Keys all the way up to wherever. but with the
I
rental,
will,
you can't do that.
I will ask Gabriela to put that on one of the questions that we will find out for you and get back to you hopefully by tomorrow or Friday the latest.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Will do. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over now to our next caller, Carlos Godelli. If you can please unmute yourself and state your question.
Hello, yes. I have two-part question. The first part is about Miami Beach residents that have like dinghies and wanna go park there for 20, 30 minutes. How much is it? I heard that it's like $150 per day. I think that's kind of like too much for Miami Beach residents if this marina is owned by Miami Beach. And my other part is that I've heard that you guys have like 20% right now of charters, meaning that 10% of those charters are illegal there because in the contract says that only 10% of slips should go to charters. So if you guys right now have double the amount, what makes you guys in the future not have 30, 40, 50 more charters? Because if you can't control it now, what makes you qualified to control it in the future? Or what are you going to do to control it in the future? Because right now it's 20%, it's 10% over, so double. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. As far as the ratio of the 20%, I will double check with our Marine Authority to confirm. I thought we were within the 10%. As far as the rates, Suntex Marina is to operate as a world-class marina, and they set the rates that are also comparable with other marinas in South Florida. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlos, for the question and comments. I'm actually going to quickly reintroduce. I know that Commissioner Gonzalez was on the call, but I wanted to correct the record and make sure that it was Commissioner Kristen Rosen Gonzalez so that we all know that it was our commissioner here on the city side that was on. With that said, I'm going to turn it now over to Dan Reitenstein. If you can please unmute yourself there, Dan.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, it's Dan Breitenstein. I'm a resident of South of Fifth and also I operate a business out of the marina. And I have a question about clarification on the 10 slips. Are those 10 slips just specifically for bareboat charter? Or does, for example, the dive boat, the parasail boats, the fishing charter operation that operates out of the marina, are they included in that 10? Or is that separate? That's my primary question.
Hi, Dan. Thank you very much. Yes, the eco tours and the diving tours are not included in those 10.
Okay.
Yeah, fishing, eco, when we reclassify them properly, were excluded because no one in the community feels that they're of concern. So it's only 10 private charter rentable boats.
Okay. So we're differentiating between like a true commercial boat, like a CY boat, a UPV, which is also a commercial boat, and then we're putting the bareboat charter or essentially boat rentals in another bucket, and that's that 10 number, correct?
Yeah, we're not excluding bareboat. There are two classes of bareboat. The ones that you're talking about, the small boat rentals, and yet they're included in the 10. But also, there have been people that go into this gray zone that we're stopping, and that is that if you're not part of the 10 and you say that you have a BTR, but you're one day, but you also are a private boat owner when code comes around, and you're trying to get money as bare bones boat rentals, that's an illegal charter, and that's going to be stopped.
Understood. And I'm on board with that, and because that's the thing with in that realm, the bareboats they play in that gray area all the time, right?
Right. It's with a limit of 10 and defined. The other problem we had was that there was never a list given to the city of locations and boats by type. So you couldn't tie a boat and a BTR and a type of boat and to a slip number, and they kept moving it around so they could keep if they wanted to, it would make it very difficult for code to enforce anything. Now we have a 2 strikes and you're out, and the code compliance will know where they're supposed to be. And if somebody else is in that location, that's a problem.
Okay, understood.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to our next caller. We have Victor Diaz. If you can please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this presentation. I am the owner of 400 Alta Road, Marina Townhouse 106M, which is a Marina townhouse directly fronting the marina. I want to start off by saying I think this marina is an incredibly valuable city asset, an invaluable city asset given the current state of the development surrounding it. It is more valuable today than it has ever been before, and therefore it is incumbent on our elected officials and the mayor, the city manager, and the administration to view this as a very valuable asset that needs to be enhanced in every way possible. I think this is a great opportunity to remedy a very bad situation for those of us who lived on the marina and have witnessed the brawls. I personally have called the city of Miami Beach Police on more than 8 occasions to have to respond to violent situations due to bad charters. So my comments are fourfold. One, I commend the quality of life terms that have been negotiated by the South of Fifth Neighborhood Association, but I think from the comments you're hearing, there's more work to be done. Second, I see no mention in the presentation of improved rent terms or enhanced economic return to the taxpayers of the city of Miami Beach. And given the age of this lease, it's imperative that we negotiate that now for any lease extension. Third, I echo the remarks of Wayne Roberts that shifting the parking and the noise and the nuisance from disembarking passengers to the Marina Grande and Icon parking garages is grossly unfair. Fourth, I think the devil is in the detail. I think a fully negotiated lease should be presented for public comment prior to the commission green lighting this. And finally, I also echo, as a vice chairman of the city's Charter Review Commission, I believe this is a violation of the city charter. Thank you.
I would like to follow back on this misstatement that was made by Wayne. I met with Moraza, the president of Marina Grande and the Icon, and while it is not in the short version of what Elizabeth brought up, we have returned this parking lot. First of all, there are no charters that are of the 10 that are aimed down in any direction. That is, they will be spread out based on size, and there are no docks identified. So that's a misnomer of some old discussions we had of trying to isolate the boats to a specific part of the marina. That is not the case. They will be 10 of them, and they will be spread out. Number two, as Ozzy can talk about, hopefully in more detail than I, the lot under Marina Grande security is number one. And yes, it will not have a condo gate, but it will have an arm, and it will have you have to be validated, and you have to be a marina authorized guest or visitor to get into there. So we're adding in which is exactly what the president of Icon and Marina Grande requested. So it is going to be secured just as the other two down the other way are. It's just that one is going to be for marina guests and marina shops, visitors, those using the boats, and it will be completely secured and validated. Ozzy, would you like to add on to that?
Thank you for catching that, Keith. Yes, you're absolutely right. Exactly as you said. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you, Victor, for the question. I'm going to turn it over to our next caller. That is Steve Russell. If you can please unmute yourself.
Did that get unmuted now?
Yes, you're
Thank you.
good there.
Yeah, first, thanks everybody for your work in negotiating this. Appreciate your attention to the concerns of the buildings immediately adjacent to the marina. Two quick questions. One, as I understand it from your presentation, the SOFNA role is under a letter of intent. Therefore, what is the remedy and the process for enforcing any problems or violations with performance under that? Does SOFNA have a standing right of action, or is that only for the city to enforce? Secondly, are there any provisions for noise inside of excessive noise, even inside of the operating hours, or for the behavior of charter guests on the walkway, particularly in the evenings after their charters? The problems really are concentrated in occurring at night when folks come off drunk and rowdy and get into fights, harass dog walkers and people. I've personally been harassed twice. It's an ugly scene at night, and so I'd like to know, one, is this going to change that or help that in any way? And secondly, is there any thing that we can do to improve relations with Suntech to address that more aggressively?
Steve, thank you very much. We're going to ask Gabriella if she can chime in, Mike Rico, so he can answer some of these questions and a couple of others. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Ozzy. Thanks, Gabriella. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, Liz. For those listening, this is Michael Grieco. In addition to being, I guess, the negotiator on behalf of Suntex, I live right across the street from the marina. So anybody from South of Fifth that's calling in, you probably see me out there walking my dog almost every night too. So to the most recent caller, there will be a new updated rules and regulations for the marina itself that incorporates some of your concerns. It's essentially a one strike warning, and then second strike, you're out. Code enforcement is also aggressively out there at about 8:45 almost every night. You might see them out there. Sometimes they're plain clothes, sometimes they are in uniform with body cam. So the issues that we experienced even a year ago or a couple of years ago, they're very far and few between now, and they're going to continue to decrease over time. And as it applies to the SOFNA letter of intent, the letter of intent has been incorporated in what will be an addendum to the current lease. So all of those quality of life issues that Keith was talking about and that Gabriella and Liz were going over, those are all being incorporated. We have an active document that have all the deal points, and they're all going to be included in that. It was good to hear Victor's voice. And if Victor's still on, we can talk offline on some of those issues. We didn't really, in this meeting, go over the financials of it, but just so everybody knows, this is a lease that goes back really to the mid-'80s. If you ever were to get a copy of it, I don't think it's actually a straight document, meaning that you have to like pull it up on microfiche, and it's like dot matrix and like triple Xeroxed. So, the only way you could probably phone it in was fax back then. So it's a very old document. Remember, Suntex has only been the leaseholder of the marina only for about half a decade. They bought out RCI, the Christophs, who had been there for many years prior to that. And just so folks know, the deal, it's important, I think, for the public to understand that the way the current lease is set up, there are 28 years remaining on that lease. As is. If there's no extension, nothing. That lease also, the signing of that lease predates any charter requirements that are related to referendum. So the charter requirement that requires referendum for leases that are in excess of 10 years for waterfront property owned by the city, that charter requirement didn't emerge until about a decade and a half after this lease was signed. So if there's any sort of legal challenges, just expect that that's going to be the response from the city. That's already been a conversation with the city attorney. So that's something that needs to get addressed on with the legal side. I'm not the attorney on this. I'm simply a lobbyist and a representative of Suntex. Right now, the current lease, the minimum rental rate, and hold on to your hats. The current minimum rental rate for annually for the lease is $350,000. That is the current minimum rental rate, or 10% of gross receipts, whichever is higher. Obviously, the 10% of gross receipts will be higher. When RCI was managing the marina, they were averaging about $1.2 million a year to the city. Suntex has more than doubled that annually on an average of about $2.5 to $2.7 million to the city every year. This renegotiated extension will raise the minimum rental rate up to $1 million, but it'll also be with a CPI accelerator, so it'll be significantly more than that. We also pay 35 cents on the dollar to the city for all revenues with parking. There was a question about parking, and just so everybody knows, there's the parking in the Marina Grande and the Icon, which it had been like that for years, but the city had requested that Suntex make everything public parking at a certain point. But by reverting back to the way things had been for years, the Marina Grande and the Icon parking garage will be gated. It'll be a passive arm, and it'll be limited to customers and guests of the marina, slip owners, Monty's, things like that. That's what it was like for years. The yacht club parking garage will be gated, probably with a gate that prevents pedestrian ingress and egress. Same thing with the Murano at Portofino. And that parking will be limited to slip owners, employees of the property itself, and there'll be some spots set aside for caregivers at Rebecca Towers. Just so everyone knows, the surface lot that is to the south of Monty's will remain public parking. It is perpetually underutilized. You can go there right now. There's probably about 30 open parking spots that will remain open to the public as well. If the city wants to, they can include my number as part of the post-meeting communications memo. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody involved. We welcome input. We welcome anybody that has any suggestions that we may have left out. This is a product of hours and hours and hours and hours of back and forth negotiations, not just with the folks that you see on the screen, not just with the commission, but with many stakeholders in the neighborhood and beyond. And we're trying to get this across the finish line because I think that the neighborhood deserves an improvement. And this is the way that we're going to get it. So I appreciate your time. Ozzy, thank you for taking me out of turn. Gabrielle as well. Liz and Keith, thank you for all your hard work. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Michael, for the responses. I'm going to turn it over to our last caller here. We have Robert Selson. If you can please unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Robert Selson. I'm a resident of the Yacht Club, and I have been a member of the SOFNA Marina Committee from the beginning. And this reflects everything that we have worked so hard to achieve. I am concerned with one point, which is that apparently there's been a proliferation of eco-charters at the marina, and we want to make sure that those don't just become the next problem that we have to deal with. So I would like to see a cap on the number of eco-charters. I don't know that we need 20, 30, 40 eco-charters in the marina. And I think a cap somewhere less than 10 would be a very reasonable improvement to the deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. I am not seeing any other hands raised from callers that have not spoken already. So if Elizabeth, you could please just go back to the last slide of the presentation that has the contact information for residents and other stakeholders to best reach the team in case they have any follow-up questions that may not have been addressed at tonight's meeting. And there we go, we can see your screen.
Give us a second. The presentation somehow disappeared.
No worries. In the meantime, Ozzy or Keith, if you guys want to provide any closing remarks while we pull up the contact information, that way we'll give Liz some time to get that ready.
Well, for those of you who are in the Marina area, south of Fifth, we are holding a SOFNA meeting. One of the many topics at 5 p.m. tomorrow, Continuum North, will be a further review and feedback discussion of this presentation and the efforts that the city, Suntex, and the community represented by SOFNA and the presidents of the Marina condos have made to try to improve, quickly improve the life of residents. So I appreciate the time, and there was very good questions. Ozzy?
I mirror that.
Literally.
Thank you both. I know that we're still waiting on the context, but perhaps Ozzy, if you don't mind just sharing verbally who we can reach or who residents can reach if they have any follow-up questions. I know it's a little hard. You've had some technical issues today, but
So sorry.
no worries.
Thank you all very much. Yes, you can contact Ozzy Dominguez at miamibeachfl.gov or Elizabeth Miro. That's Elizabeth Miro at miamibeachfl.gov. For those of you that left pending questions, I know Paula, you were one of them. We will get those answers to you as soon as possible. I'm hoping tomorrow, but Friday the latest. But I believe you have my email as well, and you can communicate with me directly. Thank you all again for your time. To the SOFNA, Suntex, our commissioners and mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ozzy, and thank you, Keith, as well, and Elizabeth for being here with us and facilitating all the conversations. We appreciate all of the questions we received from the public, and we're going to go ahead and close off the meeting. But again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us, and we will do our best to address anything specific that may not have been addressed on the call. We thank you all again, and we hope that you have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you all.